views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Moms, are you ready to become enlightened, empowered, and stress-free? Well, get ready because you are about to tune into vibrant, powerful moms helping everyday women create an extraordinary life with Debbie Pokornik. Each week, Debbie discusses topics to help you become self-aware, inspired, and on track to create the life you crave. It's time to stop settling and start thriving. And it all begins now on Transformation Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Vibrant Powerful Mom Show. I'm your host, Debbie Pokornik, and my mission is to help you tune in to all the things that can help you live a vibrant and powerful life at work, at home, and at play. Recently, I had Michelle Dickinson-Moravek on my show sharing pieces from her book, Breaking Into My Life, which is her candid story about growing up with a very unpredictable bipolar mom. She shone a light for us on her experience with mental illness and shared how this has guided her to help others. Michelle decided to write her book to challenge and transform the stigma that prevents so many from seeking and receiving treatment. Now, she is taking that message directly to kids to help them create an empowering relationship to mental health. She also designed and implemented a powerful wellness after-school enrichment program called Perfect, Just the Way You Are. And she continues to give back in many ways on the topic of mental health awareness. I asked Michelle to come back today to share some of the highlights from this program and teach us a thing or two about helping kids touched by mental health challenges in any way. Michelle, welcome back to the Vibrant Powerful Mom Show.
Thank you for having me, Debbie.
When we talked about having you come back on the show, you sent me some very sad statistics. Now, I don't know if you have those at your fingertips. I never mentioned that to you, but I'm wondering if you could just share a few of the main ones. There was, I think, 4 that really jumped out for me.
Yeah, it's amazing. So approximately 20% of youth ages 13 through 18 live with a mental health condition that they're not sharing with anyone. On a day-to-day basis. And, children that have a mental illness, the average, there's a delay in the onset of symptoms and intervention that is about 8 to 10 years. And about 50% lifetime illnesses will begin as young as the age of 14.
Wow.
But I think the most startling statistic that you're referring to is that in 2018, the Center for Disease Control reported that suicide has increased by 25% and is the 3rd leading cause of death in youth ages 10 through 24.
Yikes. They are such astounding. I'm not great at holding on to numbers, but that creates such a big picture for me of why it's so important that we start paying more attention to the idea of mental illness for young people and not just something that, a few people develop later in life. The one other stat that really stood out for me is the one about, 450 million people across the globe. Do you want to just touch on that one?
Sure. Like you said, 450 million people across the globe suffer from mental illness, and 63% are actually parents. So youngsters in more than 260 million families around the world are dealing with the ramifications of having a parent with a mental illness.
Yikes. Just let that sink in for a moment, because the reality is that this is not a topic that is just specific to a few people. This is a huge topic that touches all of us. And I just think that is such an important thing for us to keep in mind. With that said, what do you think kids most need to hear from the adults in their life, like moms and teachers, to help them deal with the challenge of mental health?
I think it all starts with our relationship to mental health. I think when you think about, our generation and how we grew up feeling, thinking, and referring to mental illness, it is, there was a lot of opportunity now for us to readjust to that. But as a younger population, if we could be engaged with children at a young age to really start to relate to mental illness is really brain health, and the brain is just another organ in our bodies. We can, prevent stigma at their generation and cause them to have an open dialogue about it, just like they would if they twisted their ankle. So I think we have a responsibility to really shape how they relate to mental health in general.
Nice. Nice. And let's dig just a little bit more into that comment you just dropped about the brain just being another organ. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. I think, it can be a scary thing, like anything. You say mental illness, and it can be very scary. I know for myself, mental illness for me growing up with my mom meant, shock therapy, and that's horrific. But if you can shape for a child, mental illness is really the brain needing just additional support. Like, you hurt your arm or your shoulder and you need medication for that to heal. It's just like the brain needs additional support to heal. It's just, in the simplest forms, you can articulate that to them, then it's not a bigger deal than any other body part.
Right. And, that's very interesting to me because if we're, let's say we have a broken arm and it's really hurting, and we take a medication and the medication doesn't help, we have no problem saying this isn't working.
Right.
Let's try something else. But I know from my own experience with a friend who was suffering from bipolar, she felt that, well, no, I got to just try because, it's got to be something I'm doing. It's not the medication. It's got to be me. And when you change it like that and you say, you know what, the brain is just another organ, just like all the others, like you still are in the driver's seat and you still get to say, hey, this isn't working for me. This is actually making me feel worse, or whatever the case might be.
Right. And, like if you think about heart disease or you think about diabetes, the first thing you're doing is you're calling up your friend who husband or wife has just been diagnosed, and you're strategizing. What are you doing? What am I doing? Oh, well, I tried this. And what doctor did you go to? Oh, cool. And if we create that space for collaboration and communication, that's powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So then from that, would you say that the teacher or parent or whoever should say something? Like, for example, what I mean is, let's just say you have a child come over to play at your house, or a child in your classroom who you can see there's something going on. They're very uncomfortable. If we picture them in your situation when you were young, then, they're uncomfortable in their own skin because their mom is bipolar and their life at home is quite toxic. So how do we deal with that? Like, what do we do? And I know every situation is different, but just as a general rule, what can a person do to help, or what should they do?
I reflect back on the moms that played a very important role in my life. My girlfriend, Robin, her Mom Colucci, was one of these women who, just being around her, I felt alive and I felt loved and I felt accepted. And she actually cared about me, and she would check in with me and she would remind me that I was beautiful with my blonde hair. Mm-hmm. I think just being who you are and really demonstrating the specialness of a child that might be dealing with that could do amazing things for them, because they're not hearing it at home. And it's also a very hard thing because I was very protective and I was very secretive. I did not want to air my family's dirty laundry. So if it was me and you were probing, I wouldn't tell you a thing. So I would probably even, go further in my shell. But the thing that I always responded to and really drank in was the love that was demonstrated by, those adults that really just took a minute to check in with me and just reminded me that I was okay.
Beautiful. So I have to I have to highlight that, okay? Because I want to make sure that people really heard this. Probing doesn't work. Trying to fix for them, getting involved in a way to say, here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to call so and so and they're going to help you, whatever, isn't really what's going to help. Just simply loving them, being there for them. I love it. That is something we just don't hear enough of. We become so hooked into that masculine model of fixing that we forget that the feminine model of nurturing is every bit as important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that feeling, like I can close my eyes and remember that feeling of feeling like I wasn't invisible in that space. And when kids are dealing with stuff at home, they do feel invisible. I felt completely unheard and unappreciated for who I was. So the littlest things I treasure as beautiful memories from my childhood.
Absolutely. And that came across clearly in the book to me. You could feel like, oh my gosh, I love this. I love this home. I love this family. I love this place. Like, which of course can make you feel like, why don't I have that? But yeah, beautiful. So I want to give you a moment to talk about the Active Minds Club because I want to make sure we have time to get that in here. So what is the Active Minds Club and how do people bring it into their community?
So Active Minds is an organization that is out to help young people have a safe space where they are to talk about their mental health and not be judged, basically. And the thing that I've always loved about this organization is they started out in colleges. And recently when I spoke in a local high school, the school was open to bringing an Active Minds Club to their school because they recognize that they have their own students that are struggling with mental health concerns, but are not comfortable talking to the general student body or their friends about it. So it's really designed to create a safe space for them to just be amongst each other if they're dealing with, autism, if they're dealing with depression, if they're dealing with anxiety. It really just gives them that safe space to be together.
Nice. Now, if people didn't listen to our previous interview, then they don't know how important it was to you when you found your youth group was what really helped you. So do you want to just talk a tiny bit about how that helped you to heal here again so that they can make that connection to Active Minds? Because that's really what it's doing.
Yeah, so connection is everything, right? I think when people feel connected to, or that they're not alone, or that they don't have to do it by themselves, it really serves them. And so for me, I harbored this secret, and it was hard to deal with going to school and not telling anyone, and then just the shame that I felt about having a family that was different. So when I found my youth group as a space for me to be able to go and be with these kids that had a similar belief as I did, I found myself on a retreat weekend sharing my story. And when I did, I was there, I was warmly received and lovingly supported by an amazing community of kids that then became my second family because I was able to connect with them and authentically they knew what I was dealing with.
Right. Nice. That sense of belonging is so important. As humans, we are wired, right, to be part of a social group. And even though we might not always be extroverted and need to be out there and be the center of attention, we still need to feel like we belong. And so I think that is just so important. So I think one of the things that you actually teach the kids when you go out to the schools is about having each other's back.
Yes.
And can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, in a world where everybody's so busy and everybody's so focused on their own achievements and their own goals, the people that you are surrounded by every day become your community. They become the ones who see you at your best, at your worst. They're with you probably more hours in a week than your own family.
Right.
So I really preach to them that they need to have each other's back, because they're the ones that are going to be able to observe a child who might be in distress or might need a little extra support. And, you would want the same for yourself if you were having a bad day, to someone to just say, hey, are you okay? So I really pressure and like remind them that like, this is your family. You're going to travel through this high school for 3 years or 4 years or whatever it is. Like, this is your family. Have each other's back. Look out for each other.
Right. Nice. That can make such a difference. I mean, I just right away bullying and such, those kinds of things come to mind.
Sure.
And yeah, so I think that is so important to help people recognize when they're part of a community and what their role is within it.
Yeah.
I remember just a quick story when my son was young, and he was very, very popular. And this is my oldest son. Well, actually, both of them were popular, but my oldest son was just this real social kid. And at one point, we were talking about this kid they were making fun of at school. And I said to him, being a popular kid comes with responsibility. You need to recognize that what you say can make or break somebody's day. And you don't have to take that on for yourself. It's up to them whether or not they take it on. But it is important to just know the power of your words and what a difference it can make when you smile at somebody, or when you ask them if they're okay, or when you don't treat them bad. Maybe you've got their back, you're there with them, whatever. And yeah, I like to believe it helped him to be a different person in
Yeah,
some way. Yeah.
absolutely.
So, can you share one tip that you teach kids to help them stand up for their own well-being?
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's nobody that knows their body better than themselves. So one of the things I mentioned to them is like, if you aren't feeling like yourself, if you're really anxious or you're really stressed, what that feels like in the body. And it's okay for you to raise your hand and say, hey, I'm not feeling quite like myself. I'm really anxious about this test that's coming up, or I'm really anxious about, a situation that I'm stressed out about. And talking about it is very important. So I really just remind them that, they have to stand up for their own well-being. Like, they need to verbalize when they don't feel right and not hold it in and keep it to themselves. I mean, we're all just human beings.
Right. Absolutely. And I love how you basically slipped in there talking about how you're feeling is important.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we all need to recognize that it's not wrong or bad to feel things. It's important that we do feel them and that we talk about them. So,
And to have a trusted friend that you can confide in and talk to. I mean, there's nothing better than that. I think, we think that we have to muscle through it. And there's nothing better than having someone that you can connect to and trust more than anything.
absolutely. So, it makes me think about you and the gossiping, which we talked about a little tiny bit in the last show. But can you maybe share what you learned from your little gossiping experience? Is that too vulnerable?
No, nothing is off the field here. So
Right.
no, I had this tendency that, like, I don't know. I think that it was a power thing, and it was the ability to have people want to get information from me. I don't know what it was. I think, I used information people shared with me as a vehicle to get other people to talk to me and to engage with me. And it was more about me than it was about the secret, so to speak.
Right.
But, I think I learned a lot in that, it was very self-serving. It wasn't, I was very trustworthy. People would tell me their story. I mean, this happens to me now as an adult, but I've learned not to share, obviously. But they just did. And so I would have these nuggets of information, and as someone who was getting no attention at home, it was a vehicle for me to get attention, at school. And so I think, when I almost lost all my friends at one point, I really got it that that is not the way to get attention.
Right. And
So I
that
had to
people
do
confide in you for a reason. That's
exactly.
not
Why would
it.
you do that?
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that that's an important thing for people to understand, because if you as an adult, if you as a mom or a teacher, if you like to gossip,
Yeah.
the kids hear that. They
Yeah.
pick up on it. And what you just shared a few moments ago was that having a friend and being authentic with that friend is what helps you through
Yeah.
those difficult times, not being popular by spreading rumors or
Yeah.
sharing the gossip. So
And
thank you for that.
I wasn't a popular kid. I mean, God, in my school, there were so many people who were more popular than me. But like in that moment, I was popular because I had
Yeah.
information, and I just wanted to be popular for a second. So it's funny.
Well, and I think that that is something now that we have to be so aware of because of things like social media and words spread really fast and you can't pull them back.
Yeah.
Right? I used to share a little thing about throwing sand in the wind and then saying to the kids, now go pick up all the pieces of sand. And they'd look at me and go, you can't. And I go, well, okay, that's the same as spreading a rumor.
Yeah.
Right? So very, very key.
Yeah.
So how about the importance of self-love and self-esteem? What do you teach them about that? And I know that that's a huge topic, but what are a couple of the little pieces?
I mean, that's something that I struggled with so much. So I give them like little examples of things to do, like find one or two things that they really do love about themselves. And we actually amplify this in my wellness program. We have this whole experience called the genuine praise exercise, where we actually have the kids go around the room and like really share what they love about the one student in the middle. And it's not your shoes are really hot. It's you're helpful. You're always helping me with my math homework. It's genuine. So I think, when we feel love from other people, that's great. But one of the things I tell them to do when I actually talk to the students is like every morning look in the mirror and like find one or two qualities that you really love about yourself and like look in the mirror and like remember those. And connect to those. So it's like, I'm really caring, or I'm really a good person because I always want to help. I always want to help someone when they're sad, or something along the lines of, I don't know. It could be anything. It could be anything, but it's to identify what one or two things are, and really look in the mirror and really get connected to that before you even go about your day.
Nice. Love it. So you also talk about some other resources that are out there that you think are very important for parents and schools to know about. Can you just highlight a couple of those?
Yeah. So in my own town, we have a crisis line that I share. But beyond that, I think every student should understand what their local crisis line is. God forbid they need to call for themselves or for a loved one or for a friend. And it could be the suicide prevention line. It could be as general as that. In my town, we have our own organization that I give out the cards for.
Right.
But there's, nowadays we have a community of youth that are so on their phones. So there's a really cool online peer-to-peer community called 18%. And it's www.18, the number, percent written out, percent.org. And what it is it's a free online community for anyone who's struggling with any kind of mental illness or is just wanting to connect with other people who are dealing with something that they may be dealing with. It's just genuinely a place of love and support. And I have been engaged with this community for quite a while, and I've witnessed the support and the love that exists between complete strangers from across the country, and in some cases across the globe. Yeah, it's free. You can log in anonymously and it's at your fingertips. So if you are having an eating disorder challenge, you can go into that room and you could just be like, listen, I am dealing with this. And then other people will jump in and support you.
Nice. Love it. So between that and bringing in an active minds club to the school, that can make a huge difference for kids
Absolutely.
that are dealing with challenges like this. So you can find out more about Michelle by going to her website at breakingintomylife.com, where you can also get an excerpt from her book, which has the same title. And you can also talk to your school about bringing her in to speak to the students, because hopefully from this 20, 25 minutes, you've been able to see that Michelle has a lot of really great information that she's had to learn firsthand and is now able to share. So I think that's very valuable. Michelle, is there, do you travel anywhere? Do you go to Canada if they want you to come to Canada, or do you just do the US?
I'm open. I would love to be able to make a difference in as many lives for children as possible.
Okay, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to come on my show and then to come back on my show and sharing such important information. I think it is absolutely wonderful. I love what you're doing, and please keep it up. I thank you on
Thank
behalf of so
you.
many people, and
Thank
myself
you.
included.
Yay. Thank
Nice.
you so much.
Yeah. So we have time for one 30-second or less little gem. Do you have a little gem you want to leave us with?
Yeah, I think the one thing we can all do around mental health and stigma is keep the conversation alive. We see tragedies occur in the news where we lose, celebrities, and then the conversation surfaces again. I
Right.
think we can keep the conversation alive. We will reduce stigma, and more people will reach out for the care that's available and that they deserve. And we can simply just check in with one another and just say, "Are you okay?"
Nice. Thank you once again, Michelle.
You're
And
welcome.
a big thank you to you, my wonderful listeners. With much respect for you and the journey you are on, this is Debbie Pokornik and her guest, Michelle Dickinson-Moravek, wishing you a vibrant and powerful day.
You've been listening to Vibrant, Powerful Moms with host Debbie Pokornik. If you've enjoyed this show, please give us a shout out and leave us a positive review. To find out more about Debbie and her sisterhood of Vibrant, Powerful Moms, visit empoweringenergy.com. That's empowering with letters NRG.com.